Moses Israel Hazan, his life. He was a very famous rabbi of his time, a rabbi we've spoken about, I believe, on various occasions before inside this series. So I thought we'll speak about the Chacham today. I believe he was born in English in 1808 and he passed away in 1862. I'm not too sure the exact date of his Hilula per se, what date it was, but he was a very, very great rabbi of his time. He was, I think, from the area of Smyrna. And that was part of Ottoman Empire, naturally, at that stage in time. He passed away, I believe, in Beirut, modern-day Lebanon, which is also part of the Ottoman Empire of that stage in time. He was about 53, 54 years of age. I think it was in the month of October, but I'm not too sure the exact date. So he was an Ottoman Jewish person. His father, I believe, was Eliezer Hazan, if I'm not mistaken. I think he was a rabbi. Also, I think it was a rabbinic dynasty. You know, there was many generations of the Hazan rabbinate itself, respectively. Now it's reported over. Okay, so he was born in 1808. I think when his father Eliezer Hazan would bring him to Jerusalem, I think in the year 1811, where he would be uneducated under his grandfather, I believe was a Rabbi Yosef ben Chaim Hazan. Come what the year 1840, and be in his very early 30s, he would become a member of a rabbinical college. In 1848, he was appointed a Meshulach, a messenger. He'd be in Rome. He'd be elected as chief rabbi over there. In 1852, he resigned, I think, from his office to go for the rabbinate of Corfu. And come 1857, he was called to the rabbinate of Alexandria. So very well traveled, which we're going to speak about as this video progresses. I think in 1862, he would go on. He went to Jaffa, but I think it was ill health at the time. He would actually end up going to Beirut, and that's when he passed away. He was buried in an area called Sidon, and in Rome and in Corfu, he was held in very, very high esteem. And there was a poet named Ludwig August von Frankl, saw him, I think, in Corfu in the year 1856, and speaks in glowing terms of his venerable personality, let's just say, respectively, which we should point out. So he was very, very, a lot is chronicled within regards to the famous rabbi, which we have to point out over here. So let's explore a bit more within regards to him. He was a champion, let's just say, of orthodoxy. It was a time period where there was problems going on with the reform movement at that stage in time and other branches. So he was a champion of orthodoxy. He possessed sufficient independence of mind to protest, let's say, against practices customary among the Jews of Rome, who insisted on various different things that might have been seen as suspicious, and that I would recommend everyone to look into. It's reported over he would write a letter condemning reforms advocated in the Brunswick Rabbinical Conference. I think this was published in a collection of the Kinyat Sion. This is in Amsterdam in the year 1846. This was documented over there. He would write in his book, I think, called Yeh Hayam, a commentary on the Respona of the Gaonim, the geniuses. He provided an extensive analysis of the Gaonic chain of tradition, arguing, let's say, among other things, that the Spanish Sephardic version of the Igeret Sharia Gaon's epistle was the original version, in line with the scholarly consensus of that specific time. Rabbi Hazan's work were written entirely in Hebrew and was adapted for Vulgate audience. Crescenzo Alatri, a rabbi and a scholar from Rome, translated, let's say, a significant portion of his poetry into Italian. So maybe let's explore some of his work. So we'll go in a bit more detail about his life. There was a Nachala Yisrael book, which is a collection of decisions, let's say, especially on response on inheritance, laws of Yerusha, I believe. This was, I think, printed in Vienna in the year 1851 and in Alexandria in the year 1862. And then there was Contras, Kedushat Yom Tov Sheni. This was an argument at that point in time, let's just say, in favor of retaining the second day, which we obviously very much keep nowadays. The second day of Yom Tov, naturally. Pesach, Sukkot, for example, Shavuot, also Shalosh pilgrimage festivals, 3 pilgrimage festivals, Shalosh Reglim, as we call it. Then there was Divrei Shalom Be'emet. This was a reply in the form of an address, let's say, to the Israelites of Great Britain by a Levite, to a reform pamphlet at that point in time. I think this was printed in the year 1856 in London. Remember, he was a staunch advocate for orthodoxy. There was a Sherit Hanakhla'ah. This was a discourse and dialogue on religious questions, let's just say, in of itself, that actually came at that point in time. I think there will be a revised version that will come up at a later time. I think to be precise, in Alexandria, come up the year 1862. I think it was actually called Nachla Yisrael, this revised version. Then there's Yeh Hayam, which I spoke about just a few minutes ago. This was a responsa of the Gaonim, with his notes also. This was printed in Livorno in the year 1864. Then there was a Kerach Shel Romi. This was a responsa in the year 1876. And there was other responsa. It depends on, in Kabbalah, let's say, for example, that which would actually remain in manuscript. I think there's much featured, I think, in the Jewish encyclopedia bibliography, which is actually featured. I think the editors actually wrote it, I think, between the years 1901 to 1906. I think there were other great people in the family. Solomon Hazan, maybe Hamalaot Li Shlomo, and Eliyahu Hazan. I think there was Zichron Yerushalayim, I think, which is printed in Livorno, if I'm not mistaken. I think that might quote it, and various other places. Also, he would spend some time in London. Rabbi Israel Moshe Hazan was gifted with the gift of speech and, let's say, persuasion, and was therefore sent, I think, as a Shluchei de Rabbanan, if I'm not mistaken. They would send him also to London, among one of the places, and would speak to the leaders of the Jewish community over there. And one of the aims was to help with in regards to construction of Jerusalem, raising money. I think there was a hospital over there, so construction money. I think he would travel before he went to London to Algeria, Tunisia, and North Africa. He would visit to other places. He would be in Morocco. He would speak to great rabbis of Maghreb, let's say the Jewish community over there, and was, I think, had some influence, or was influenced in the way of speaking, the halakhic matters. Would visit various different historical antiquities, and I think he would go to London. I think maybe he was in Morocco just beforehand. I think it was he would chronicle, if I'm not mentioning, his how he sailed on a mission, and it's interesting. Just we will talk about the signatures when he was traveling and so on and so forth. He would spend time, I think, in Constantinople in Turkey, if I'm not mistaken. And I think he was in contact with Baron Rothschild, if I'm not mistaken, about the construction of the hospital at that point in time. And he was quoted in the Jewish Chronicle. And I think he had correspondence with Moses Montefiore. It was reported over. He was representative, let's just say, of the Jews of Jerusalem. And he would receive letters of recommendation from various people, including, I think, from Rabbi Chaim Abraham Gagin, and so on and so forth. I think his articles, a commentary with regards to, would be published, let's just say, in various different news outlets. I think there was robust debate at that time. He would be in London, I think, for 6 months. He would write a book over there, and yes, that's very interesting. After his time in London, there was robust debate. He had debates with other people about various things. I think at that point in time, Nathan Adler would become the chief rabbi of the United Kingdom and the Commonwealth at that stage in time. But there was robust debate. I don't know if there was disagreement or not. I would recommend everyone to look into that. But eventually he would end up in Amsterdam. He spent a period in Amsterdam, and would also be then eventually in Rome. Remember, I think go to Livorno, if I'm not mistaken. He would have been in Lisbon also at one point in time, and I think he had connections with many people, especially in the Jewish community. I think he would become the chief rabbi of Rome at a window of time, if I'm not mistaken. And I think maybe it was connected to the synagogue, I think, in Catalan, if I'm not mistaken. And now, obviously, he strengthened, let's say, the Roman community. But I think at that point in time, his health would weaken, and he was asked to immigrate, I think, to the land of Israel. But I think he would eventually leave Rome, travel to Naples, and then go to the port city of Corfu, if I'm not mistaken. He would end up in Jaffa, and I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think Rabbi Yehuda Bas would take on a job, or would receive a job somewhere else. He would actually go to Hebron, and I think eventually he would actually end up in Corfu. The rabbi would over there, and in Corfu he would sat in the rabbinate over there, let's just say, and would serve as a rabbi eventually in Alexandria, and he was very close to Rabbi Shlomo Hazan at that point in time. He would emigrate, I think, towards the end of his life and settle back in Israel, and I think he was replaced in Alexandria by another rabbi, Rabbi Nathan Amram, or Natan Amram, you could say his name is. Also, I think this was shortly before, and then I think in the month of Cheshvan, because of illness, I think he was in Beirut at that point in time. He traveled to the city, and maybe it could be because because of health reasons, or so on and so forth. But I think, sadly, I think he did pass away at that specific point in time. I'm not too sure the exact date of his passing, so that is something that we'll have to look into. If anyone knows, please let me know. But he was a great rabbi of his time. I'm not sure if we spoke about him or dedicated a video within regards to him beforehand inside this series, but I thought it would be important to mention the great rabbi again, to cover the great rabbi. He was a chief rabbi of his time. He was very well traveled. It was Shluchei de Rabbanan, one of the great rabbis of Jerusalem. He was only about 53, 54 years of age when he passed away, I believe, back in the year 1862. So we're talking about, here from the time of recording, it's about 163 years ago, if my maths will do me correct. He was the son of, I think, Rabbi Eliezer Hazan, who was a great person also. Rabbi Israel Moses Hazan, a famous Sephardic rabbi of his time. Now, friends, we're a community here. We're learning about famous rabbis of yesteryear. If you descend from any of the Chachamim we are speaking about, please send me an email. I would love to hear more information. If you haven't subscribed yet to the channel, please subscribe now. We're nearing a staggering 7,000 subscribers. Let's learn more about the great Sephardi rabbis and North African rabbis of Islam from the Ottoman era of itself. And please, wishing you all a good day, and take care. And thanks everyone for watching. Thank you very much.